from on the November ballot issues, which is brought to you today by the APAPA Youth Chapter. So before we start, we're just going to talk to you guys a little bit about what is APAPA Ohio Youth. And so we have a couple main goals, and one of them is to educate and inform the public on public affairs going on in our city, such as issue ballot votings and other things that would affect your day-to-day lives. And then also we want to increase civic engagement in our community. So we are trying to encourage people to vote by doing voter registration. And we also want to promote leadership in the youth of today.
Yeah, and in addition to all these civic engagement events that we do, such as this voter education event, we also have many events to increase youth leadership. So for example, we offer internship programs for those of you who want to be members, and then you have potential to work as an intern in both the local, state, and the government levels. So as an intern there, you would have a close hands-on experience on how the government works. So that's one advantage of being a member of our program. Next, we also have a leadership summit every year. So last year, our leadership summit was at Chicago, and there, Nora and I, we learned a lot of politically diverse things, as well as attended a political rally. And next year, it'll take place in California. So by joining as a member, you will be eligible to attend our next leadership summit.
Yeah, so now we're going to, today our main focus though is just on the November ballot issues, which we're going to talk about issue 1, issue 2, and issue 4 today. So we're going to start on issue 1.
Alright, hi everyone, my name is Vincent, and today I'm going to be talking about issue 1 and be providing you with a summary of what it is. So issue 1, which is commonly known as Marcy's Law, protects victims of crime's rights. Marcy's Law is named after Dr. Nicholas's sister, Marcy Nicholas, who was stalked and killed by her ex-boyfriend in 1983. A week after the murder, Marcy's mother encountered the accused murderer in a grocery store while he was on bail, but Marcy's mother had not known that he was on bail. Marcy's Law was then created to prevent further incidents like this and offer protections to crime victims. This law was passed in 2008 in California, followed by 4 other states, and is currently underway in states such as Kentucky, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, Ohio, Wisconsin, Idaho, Oklahoma, and Maine. Issue 1 is aimed at amending Ohio's Constitution, which currently does not include several rights for victims and their families to the same extent as the rights of the accused. By voting for issue 1, it will amend Ohio's Constitution to include several rights for victims and their families to the same extent as rights of the accused. And this will replace the current Section 10A in Ohio's Constitution with Marcy's Law. And this will require a majority yes to pass. Some of the proposed rights to crime victims include right to information about rights services available to crime victims, right to privacy and to be treated with fairness, respect, and dignity, right to notification in a timely manner of all proceedings in a case, right to be present and heard at all court proceedings, including the right to petition the court to protect the victim's rights, right to a prompt conclusion of the case, right to refuse discovery requests made by the accused, except as authorized by Article 1, Section 10 of the Ohio Constitution. Right to reasonable protection from the accused, right to notice of the release or escape of the accused, and right to restitution. And if any of these rights are violated, the victim has a right to file a motion in court. And now moving on to the pros and cons.
So the pros of issue 1 are mainly the rights that were listed in the previous slide. And in summary, the Marcy's Law will increase and protect the rights of crime victims, and also crime victims will have more information on their defendants. Furthermore, crime victims and their families will have a bigger voice in Ohio's criminal justice system. On the flip side, the cons of issue 1. So the cons of issue 1, issue 1 does not provide additional resources, and the government remains immune to liability, which means they cannot take blame. Also, Ohio law already notifies victims on when the defendant is arrested or eligible for pretrial release. Also, issue 1 amends Ohio's constitution to give victims the right to refuse to turn over potential evidence, which means like interviews from the victim. And this will delay cases. Now on to issue 2.
Alright, so today we're going to be talking about issue 2, and basically it's supposed to lower drug prices for Ohio residents. Okay, so the main purpose of issue 2 is to lower our costs so we pay the same amount of money for our drugs as the VA. And this is like a theoretical graph that is just like to show an example. So in the beginning you can see that Ohio is paying more, and then afterwards it would be paying the same. But so that's like theoretically what we want to happen in issue 2.
Okay, so I'm sure you guys are all wondering, what is VA? VA is how we will be addressing the United States Department of Veteran Affairs. What VA does is they supply medical and patient care to veterans and their dependents. As of now, VA is paying a 24% off the full price for prescription drugs. But as we say, Ohio is paying the full price. So here's an example to put this into our own perspective. Let's say you go to the drugstore and you're waiting in line to get your prescription medicine. You notice that the person in front of you is getting the exact same medicine as you. It's the same amount, same dosage, just the same exact medication. When she goes to pay, she is charged $30. Then you receive your own medicine. Remember, it's the same amount, same dosage, same exact everything. You go to pay, but you're charged $40. What do you guys think? It's unfair, right? Obviously, it's unfair. However, you must know the situation and the circumstances to actually decide if you want to say something.
So now we will be addressing the, so officials basically want to lower our prescription drug prices so that they're the same as the VA, so this would theoretically give us a 24% discount on, so that we get the discount too, as well as the VA. So now we're going to move on to some reasons why we should pass this issue, and some are Ohio will then pay the same amount that the VA pays for drugs, which will then decrease and save us money, and it should be save us about $400 million a year. But we're going to also see the cons for this issue.
So now we're going to talk about the opposite side, why you should not vote for this issue. So number 1, Ohio is actually already paying similar amounts to VA. So 75% of all the medication we buy in Ohio is bought from a state insurance program called Medicaid. All of the drugs we buy from Medicaid comes with a 23% discount. So basically, we're already getting a very similar discount to VA. 23% and 24% isn't really that big of a difference. Number 2, demanding lower prices from pharmaceutical companies can cause one of 2 things to happen. Companies will either stop selling to us because the price just isn't benefiting the company itself, or they could raise the drug prices to pay for the losses of the discounted drugs. And number 3, this initiative only applies to state and agency programs, which applies to only about 1/3 of Ohio's population, roughly 7 million people, but it leaves out most of the residents of Ohio. And why? Because 64% of our population don't get their drugs through state programs. They could get it through private insurance companies or employer insurance, which could actually end up raising their drug prices. Since this issue doesn't apply to them, their drug prices could skyrocket. Also, VA does not purchase all of the drugs that Ohio purchases. So what happens when VA doesn't buy a drug that Ohio wants to buy? When this happens, how do we compare the prices? When this happens, companies could drastically increase the prices of these drugs, which could actually end up harming the people that fall under this category.
So now we're going to talk about issue 4.
So issue 4 is an issue exclusive to Franklin County, but there's still some information about it. So there is this board called the Franklin County Board of Developmental Disabilities. And what they do is they impose a property tax levy on the citizens, and they use this money to provide services for various citizens that have developmental disabilities. From children to adults to elderly people, they provide services so they can become nice functioning members of society that are able to function on their own. So in the past 10 years, they had a tax levy of, so if a house owner owns a $100,000 house, they pay about $9 every year to support this board and tax levies. And this year, this levy is expiring, so they want to renew it. So this will not pose any increase in your taxes, and they want to renew it. So if you vote yes for this issue, you will be continuing to support these various people with developmental disabilities. But if you vote no, then you will see a slight decrease in your property tax rates. All right, and then we have some judge election summaries.
These judges are the judges you will be voting for on November 7th that will decide the previously discussed issues. Andrea C. Peoples, a Democrat, on George Leach, a Republican, and Edward Fall, full term commencing January 1st, 2018. Full term commencing January 2nd, 2018. Cindy Morehart, a Democrat, Sean McCarthy, a Republican. Full term commencing January 3rd, 2018. Jared Skinner, a Democrat, and Glenn Willard, a Republican.
All right, so do you guys have any questions? Yes?
So regarding issue 2, you said only 1/3 of Ohio actually be covered in the government program. The majority of them assume it's under Medicaid. So who actually can benefit from issue 2 then?
It's just everyone that gets their health insurance through a state agency. But the thing is that like 2/3 of Ohio's population actually gets their health insurance from a different source and not a state agency. But this issue only applies to those who are under the state agency. That's why it's only affecting 1/3 of Ohio's population.
So basically affect the Medicare recipient then, because the 1/3 is private insured, right? 2/3 are government insurance. Of the government insurance, the biggest one is Medicaid recipient, right? And another biggest one is Medicare, which is the seniors. Basically, this lowers the drug price for seniors who are not covered under Medicaid. Is that correct?
Yes.
You're asking too much from the kids.
No,
I
just the kids.
thought that they were saying 1/3 is going to be affected by issue 2.
No,
That means that 2/3 are not.
1/3 is covered, 2/3 is not covered.
You're right. It's Medicaid, Medicare, and also state employees.
So if you're covered from like
that Ohio
private
State
insurance
or
or like
State Department.
70% of the 1/3 is Medicaid.
Yeah, so we're talking about 30%, because Medicaid only getting similar drug price, right?
Right.
Who will benefit will be 30% of 1/3, who will benefit from this.
You would
No,
say
no.
70% of 1/3.
70% of 1/3 is Medicaid.
Okay.
The other 30% of 1/3 is state employee.
So what they're trying to say is,
Oh, Medicare is in the federal income, so, but the Medicaid already getting 23% discount, so it's the state employee.
State employee plus
to answer your
Medicaid.
question, so
Plus
you're,
state.
But Medicaid recipient, like, already
So
getting
the
the
extra
extra
1%.
extra
Excuse me.
1% then.
to answer your original question,
Okay.
just to re-clarify that, it means 1/3 of people in Ohio are covered by government medical insurance.
Okay.
So only this 1/3 of people will be affected by the decrease in drug prices, which includes Medicare, Medicaid, government employees. But if you have private insurance or employer insurance, then this will not affect you.
Okay.
So, any other questions?
The problem is this issue, like the government employs agencies, they get their benefits, but the taxpayer will pay the lawyer. That's something endless work. You work for the government, you challenge the law, I can be a lawyer, I can just work forever. I mean, you'll never end, and there's no one guarantee the government will win. Yeah, they should be. The guy who proposed this law